Hey guys, Trent here coming at you with another video. So a video I've been thinking about and working on over the last few weeks here is I wanted to show you my top figures, vintage figures that are valuable, rare, expensive, whatever you want to call it. So here's my kind of like a top 8 list of my most valuable, rare, and expensive figures. So welcome into my channel. If you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe for more great toy videos, 80s, 90s nostalgic videos, and things of that nature. Yeah, I'm proud of my collection. I got a pretty good one. And amongst them, I've acquired some pretty decent figures, several over $100 figures, and some ones that maybe aren't as much, don't have as much dollar value as that, but are still like pretty rare. So anyways, I wanted to show you the best of what I think that I have. So let's take a look. All right, kicking it off for my the rarest figures and toys in my vintage collection. We have the vintage G.I. Joe Real American Hero Cobra glider pilot. So this is basically just a repainted Cobra symbol of the Cobra the Enemy regular Cobra Trooper. You see he has the knee pads and all the other stuff that the regular Cobra the Enemy Trooper has. The only difference is he has that silver painted Cobra symbol instead of the red one. And that makes him a little bit special because these aren't like super easy to come by. So it's, I think, the most rare G.I. Joe figure that I have. So I don't have I'm working on my G.I. Joe collection, but I got a pretty decent one, but you know, I'm working on it. But look at how pristine that Cobra symbol is. So yeah, I'm really happy to have, I got this early on. I was really happy to get it. So I got the G.I. Joe Cobra glider pilot. All right, next on my list for my rarest vintage toys and figures in my collection, we've got a Skeletor, a vintage Skeletor. So in the first 8-back wave of releases, Skeletor was what was called a peach cheek Skeletor. So his face has, on the cheekbones, has some peach looking paint, and that's what they're talking about. Of course, it's the half boot paint like all the early Skeletors. The only thing about this one is most of the peach cheeks had purple trunks, and then later they went to the black trunks. So this is not a very first 8-back release, this is like a second one, because it had the peach cheeks and the half boot paint, but he has black trunks instead of purple trunks. And you don't see this one very much. I've seen it one other time. I actually own one other one, and I sold it. I probably should not have done that, because I think this is as far as the basic Skeletor goes, this is one of the most rare from the ones that you can just get in the United States. Because again, almost every time you get a peach cheek one, it's gonna be a purple trunk. So this is my favorite Skeletor, my favorite vintage Skeletor. Really proud to have it. And yeah, we'll call it number 2 in my rarest vintage figures and toys I own. All right, here we go. Number 3 for the rarest vintage figures I own. We've got, this is a toy called, or the brand is called Juba, Juyba, and this is an Italian Motu knockoff figure. And you don't see these very often. I think it's supposed to have a knockoff Skeletor loincloth. Of course, the chances of finding those are like near impossible, as well as the weapons. But it's called, the brand is Juba, and it's called Jinetes de Espacio, I believe, if I said that correctly. Or Space Riders or something like that. But you can see it's kind of like, supposed to be kind of like a bootleg knockoff Skeletor. That's how people kind of advertise it, if you will. And yeah, I got this on a good old Goodwill auction. Saw it and I was like, I had to have it. And these do not come up very often, so definitely a pretty rare figure. But yeah, they're pretty cool. All right, next on my most rarest and valuable figures, we've got another vintage Masters of the Universe figure. We've got Leech here, but he is the Mexico painted black belt version. So there's lots of interesting variants in vintage Masters of the Universe. I think this is one of the more uncommon ones. The real prize one that to be on the lookout for is the Bluebeard Stratos. I think that as far as like paint variants, that's got to be like one of the grails. This one's up there though. This figure's pretty expensive. So he has, normally there's not the normal Malaysia one doesn't have a painted belt. It's just brown. And then also this skin tone right here, you see he's got 2 tones of skin on his belly, and that's different. So it makes the figure a lot cooler. So a little added paint detail. And then so this one that I have with the black belt has this color button on the back. And then I found one other Mexico Leech. I have it right here. He doesn't have the painted black belt, but he is unique because he has a 2-tone painted button on the back, and that's pretty uncommon as well. But the one that people talk about the most is the black belt Leech. And there's even a variant of Leech that has extra paint applications on the suction cup, like red past the teeth here. And that's even more rare. If you could find that paint application on a black belt, that would be incredible. So I'm going to go ahead and consider this one of my top rare figures. Again, it's not one of the most rare paint application variants for Vintage Masters of the Universe, but it's pretty high up there. More so than something like a dark face Grizzlor or something like that. Seems to be more common. All right, next on my top rare figures, we've got a figure that is now inducted into officially as a Masters of the Universe character because the Sunman and the Rulers of the Sun figures have been brought into the Motu line with Origins. But this is the Space Sumo one that the Origins version you can get for really cheap, but this is the original vintage Olmec 1980s Space Sumo. It's my one and only Olmec Sunman vintage figure that I have, and I scored this on a high bid auction with some other figures actually for $40. Absolutely incredible find. One of the best scores I've had. Not a common figure. You go on eBay right now, you cannot. There's no copies of it. When it comes to Olmec Sunman figures, I mean, there's plenty of people selling Sunman and Pighead, but that's pretty much it. Every once in a while, a different figure besides those two might come up. I think it was Holographo or something like that, not too long ago, but I've yet, since I got this and I've started looking, I've yet to see the Space Sumo come up. Which, of course, means that me ever trying to get accessories for this guy is going to be impossible. But I've got the figure, and he's great looking condition. So, one of my rarest figures. Vintage Olmec Sunman Space Sumo. Alright, so I'm going to put this on my rarest toys list. Although I did just sell it, I decided to not collect Dragon Riders of the Styx, and that's what this belongs to. This is the Skull Sled. So what I have here is the actual sled complete with the snakes, and then the actual rider that comes with it, and his sword. He's just missing his shield. It was a really cool piece. I definitely think the line's cool, but I just have to I don't know. I decided I'm gonna kind of pick and choose and not collect everything. But somebody bought it from me on eBay. Andrew, he's a collector of Dragon Riders of the Styx, and I think a vintage toy collector. And this was the last piece he needed to collect to finish his Dragon Riders of the Styx collection. So it sounds like it's going to go into good hands. I enjoyed having this. I had it for maybe a year, or maybe close to 2 years. It was kind of getting buried behind all this other stuff, collecting a little dust. So, because it's the only piece I have for Dragon Riders of the Styx, and when it comes to smaller scale stuff, the only thing I'm really interested in collecting right now is G.I. Joe. So I thought I'd go ahead and make a little of my money back on this one. So, and yeah, I think Andrew's going to be really happy with this one because it's a nice piece, and yeah, it's almost complete other than that black shield, which eventually one will come along. So I hope Andrew enjoys this in his collection, but I wanted to throw it in my rarest toys that I own at least one last time here. Okay, next to last for my top rare expensive vintage toys, this one's not going to be a figure, it's going to be a play set. I'm going to put one play set in there because it's probably the rarest and most expensive toy I actually own. It is the Power Lords Vulcan Rock playset. So, see, I got my horror guys on there. Not going to take it out, but I've made other videos showing it. I've still yet to complete it. I'm missing one piece. I'm missing this platform that plugs in right there, which is, I think, probably easily the hardest piece to find for this thing, of a set where every piece is hard to find except for maybe the weapons that go on the weapons rack inside. But yeah, I've got everything else in nice condition on this set. Just missing that one platform. It's an incredible set. It makes a great display piece for your 5.5 inch action figures. I have only one of their Power Lords, maybe only a couple more Power Lords items. I just like it for 5.5. I haven't gotten into collecting Power Lords yet, but I mean, it's actually like, in a lot of ways, other than nostalgia, it's superior to Castle Grayskull, and they were made in the same year. So it was one of the best scores I've ever had. I scored that on a Goodwill auction for $230 around that, with shipping and all that stuff. And it actually had, it came with its original box, and the set was missing a lot of pieces. I scored another auction lot one time that got me a lot of the pieces I was missing. And basically, yeah, that got me down to only missing that one platform. Oh, and even though the set was missing pieces, there was some vintage 1970s Star Wars Millennium Falcon pieces in there, mixed in there, that I sold and made most of my money back, actually. And then the box, this is probably a mistake, but I did it. I sold the box, just the box, on eBay for $1,000, and I put it for sale one evening, and I woke up and it had been sold overnight. Probably actually priced it too low, and actually probably shouldn't have sold it. I probably should have kept the box with the set. But yeah, because that box it was a nice condition box too. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely collector's worthy, I would think. So yeah, I just instantly got $1,000 for the box on a $200 score of this vintage Power Lords playset, which is pretty rare. I used that $1,000 to go in on my Eternia playset, which is kind of rare too. Not really rare, but it is expensive. So that's why I didn't include it in this list, because I mean, it's not hard to find the pieces. They're just expensive. But anyways, runner up for my most rare and expensive toy / action figure is going to be my vintage 1982 Revell Power Lords Vulcan Rock playset. Alright, I'm going to go around and do some runners up real quick. Here we got Dark Face Grizzlor there. Nice condition one. We got Red Dot on his head, Man-at-Arms. Oh, here are a couple of those gargoyle protectors. They have their wings, so that makes them harder to find like that, and I got both variants right there, so those are pretty hard to find. Alright, and we got a special runner up here. This is a figure that's not really a figure. It's a vintage Masters of the Universe, at least parts. It has a Trapjaw head, Trapjaw waist, and a He-Man. The rest is He-Man body, completely unpainted, made in Mexico. Based on my experience in Motu, this was put together in, this was manufactured, this was put together in the factory this way. That's the best way I can describe it. It's not like some kind of custom or something that somebody did. So I don't know what it is. I won it in a Goodwill auction for like $30 with some other figures, and it's actually my most prized vintage Masters of the Universe figure. I'm calling it the most rare, even though the only reason why I don't put it on like #1 on the list and just put it on the honorable mention is because I can't validate what it is, you know what I mean? So it could be a test shot, it could be I don't know, just an employee taking scrap parts and putting them together to make a figure to bring home to their kid, you know, with free parts or something, you know, free scrap parts. But I think it's absolutely incredible. An unpainted hybrid He-Man Trapjaw vintage Masters of the Universe Mexico figure. That's my #1 runner-up, and it's one of my most prized vintage Masters of the Universe figures. All right, and for the grand finale, the #1 figure, we have to go with one that everybody considers to be a grail, and I recently, not at this point, it's been a while, but I did acquire me a Wonderbread He-Man authentic vintage, and it's the hype and everything makes this one more valuable probably than some, even though I would say it's probably some of the other figures I've showed you probably are actually more rare than this, but it being, you know, the infamous Wonderbread He-Man, it has a premium on it. But yeah, I finally scored the Wonderbread He-Man, refurbished it up as good as I could. Pretty decent condition. The face is really nice. He has a few minor flaws, but otherwise I'm very happy. I rebanded the legs, and I've got a nice Wonderbread He-Man for my collection. And as far as a single figure in my collection, if for resale value, I think he's got to be the most valuable for me personally in my collection. But I got a lot of good ones, so this one's just the icing on the cake. And of course, it being Masters of the Universe, which is my primary vintage favorite thing to collect. Still working on it. I'm pretty close, but still working on it. I'm happy to put this on my list of my top valuable rare vintage figures. So what'd you think of my list? What do you think of my rare and expensive toys? Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.